Welcome to the Breaking 90 podcast, where we talk about all things sustainable fat loss. We take people on 90-day journeys to creating fat loss forever. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Breaking 90 podcast. I'm your host, Jerrika with my amazing co-host, Kelly Sarlo, and we're two of the coaches of Breaking 90 Fitness. Hey, Kelly.
Hi, Jer. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Full disclosure, I haven't brushed my teeth, brushed my hair, or washed my face yet this morning, and it's 10:13.
Okay, I've done one of those things.
Okay, that's great news.
So,
we're
you're in good company.
It's that mom life's getting me good today.
I love you.
Oh, I'm learning.
Yeah. How's Beckett doing?
He's doing really well. Yeah, our sleeping is not great, but our daytime life is awesome. So hey, we're doing okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think everyone can empathize with that stage.
Yeah, I'm learning. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild. Sleep deprivation on a whole new level. But it's okay. We're smiling and we have our coffee in the morning.
Good for you. That's a great attitude.
Yes. Yeah. It's going to be okay.
What do you have for us today?
I want to pick your brain a little bit on getting back to routine.
Okay.
More so from a mindset component, I think that there are so many of us who know what we want to do or know that we have, X number of weeks because we're school starting back up or whatever. I'm thinking myself like, oh, and I have to go back to work or whatever routine you want to get back to. But it's just about that struggle, or I guess it's going to tie a little bit into motivation, but I think we could bring it to different directions as well. But yeah, so just getting back into routine, I think so many of us can benefit from just having a chat about this.
Well, okay. My brain's going in a couple different directions.
That's what I figured. Yeah. Which way you want to take it first?
Because it's all exciting to me. So if I think about the idea of simply approaching this from a mindset perspective, so not a productivity and scheduling part, which I absolutely love and we will touch on. One of the biggest things is to actually first check in with how you feel about what that routine is going to mean to you. So if we're talking about the back to school routine, just because that's one of the biggest ones that happens throughout the year, sometimes we don't notice as it's creeping closer that we're starting to feel dread, that we're starting to feel anxiety, that we're starting to feel fill in the blank, right? So to be able to sit down with yourself, a calendar and look at, okay, I'm 3 weeks away. It's understandable that, or it makes sense that, because this is a compassionate statement, this routine is coming back into my life and it means XYZ for myself, my family, etc. Identifying what emotions are coming up is a really important process because it's going to influence the way you approach the scheduling and how you end up carrying out that productivity or not. And I think for a lot of people, they just think it's a plug and play with your schedule and we're just going to do it. And you can, that's true, you can, but your emotions or your emotional reaction to what you're doing, it's going to be there whether you're conscious about it or not, right? So we want to approach it ideally from the most conscious place that you can, because when you do that, more decisions open up, right? More choices open up, and we start to feel better when we actually know that choice is a part of this instead of thinking it's just all responsibility, all musts, and we feel confined or that we're not autonomous. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because I think about when I don't think about my emotions or I don't do that, I almost, after the routine happens or after it occurred, like I almost I become a reactive sort of person, right? It's like things that happened I wasn't expecting because I didn't think about it, and now I'm reacting in a way that I'm not proud of, right? Instead of kind of preparing myself in advance.
Yeah, that's a great example. And you know what? Another one we can pull in here, and I won't do too many because I don't want to confuse people, but we get out of routine with Christmas or summer. Let's not choose summer. We get out of routine with Christmas, let's say, nice, 2-week holiday for a lot of people, and we don't assess what returning to work is going to look like at that point. And where you're saying I become reactive, I don't necessarily think about what's coming. Subconsciously, you've been through this reset so many times. Your body knows what's coming. Your brain already knows what's coming. And so it is reacting to the things that you haven't consciously given thought to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we might not know why we feel anxious, but it's because the body's like, "Yeah, I've been through this before. I know what's coming."
It knows. Yep. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Sometimes I
exactly.
can't tell you how many times I've said to a friend, like, "I feel anxious and I don't know why." It's like, "Well, my body knows," and then it happens, you're like, "Well, if I would have really sat down and, like, took a bigger picture, I probably could have easily figured out why I'm feeling this way. I just didn't give it the time or the thought, right? And I just kinda said the blanket statement, 'Oh, I feel anxious and I don't know why.'" That
Yep.
comes out of your mouth my mouth a lot.
Yeah. And it's true. I hope that people can think about different periods of time in their life, whether we're talking to a 40-year-old, a 50-year-old, et cetera. Like anyone who came out of school for the first time, that first September where you did not go back to school, okay, you had graduated, this was it, you're going into the workforce. Anxiety and dread crept in August. And, like,
Mhm.
full blown, you're still feeling like it's the first day of school on that Tuesday after Labor Day, and it's just like, "Oh, why do I feel this way?" And you're like, "I'm 3 weeks into my new job," and yet this time of year, your body is used to gearing up the way it always has,
Crazy. Yep.
and it takes a lot of time to come out of that, right?
Right.
So
Mhm.
that's just an example to show people like your body instinctively knows and it really does keep score. So bringing consciousness to what you feel is a really important routine to understand, okay, how do I bring to light what might be coming in terms of my feelings and then what do I want to do about it? And that's where the scheduling and productivity comes in, right?
Yep. Okay.
So
Yep.
any questions about that part?
No, awesome.
Okay, cool. So then if we actually pull out the schedule, which would be my next, example of what needs to happen, is we want to look at the absolute musts. So the things that we don't have choice over, right? So your schedule, expectations at work, your kids' school routine and pickups and drop-offs and things like that. So that's the plug and play of like, okay, here's what reality is about to look like. Then we start to be able to actually approach, okay, what kind of routine outside of the actual musts do I want to engage in? Right. So, and I think for a lot of people's parent or people, pardon me, parents in particular, they don't necessarily think, do I want to be driving 4 nights a week and if I put my kids in 3 extracurriculars? Like we can sit there and say, you know what? I'm willing to offer them one because I don't want to get back into a routine that involves 5 to 7 days a week. Right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, once those responsibilities are plugged in, that's where you can start to ask yourself the questions where the choice lies of what do I have the capacity for? Now, capacity is different than desire, right? The super people, super moms, super dads, you can do 7 days a week, I'm sure. But do you want to? Right? If
And
this
you're
is, go ahead.
so saying you're not a bad parent if you don't want to and you don't put your kid in the 3, 4, 5 things.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So deciding, you know what? I would love to have a night at least once a week during the weekdays where we're home. Like that's okay. So you start to decide, okay, you know what? I'm going to offer them one sport this month or one sport this season or it's a sport or another extracurricular, right? So we start to really feel a good, healthy kind of control because we've assessed what do I want to feel in this routine? Not just here's what we've always done. So here's what we're going to do again, right?
Absolutely.
Because
Yep.
that mentality of this is what our family does, this is what we've always done. This is where resentment comes in. And we don't understand because apparently we're just, doing all the things, but we don't really realize resentment has crept in because we didn't think or feel like we had choice. And so we
Right.
end up unconsciously becoming a martyr, right?
Gotcha.
Whether
Yeah.
we're vocalizing it or not, we're living from that space of resentment. So back to routine really does require a whole lot of mental and emotional effort to figure out your needs and your desires. And it's also going to require check-in with your people, right? Age appropriately, you're going to have to check in with your partner, right? To say like, what do you want this to look like? What do you
Yeah.
need it to look like? Talk to me about your busy times at work, right? What are those shifts and change and when is the routine going to, wax and wane here, right?
Love it. Yes. And then with the kids as well.
Yeah, and
Like,
age
yeah.
appropriately with the kids, right? You might be looking at a 6-year-old and deciding, I'm making the decisions about how many sports they can be in. Versus if you look at your 17-year-old who has the keys to your vehicle and saying, I'm more than happy to take you to one a week. If you want to do more than that, you're going to need to make arrangements with a friend, a friend's parent, your own vehicle to get yourself to and from. right?
Yep.
And
And
leaving.
maybe maybe the kid has to do some side jobs to pay for it themselves as well because I'm setting that boundary that I'm not paying for
Yes. And you're bringing up
it.
a like, just a beautiful, beautiful example. I didn't wanna go that deep, but I really love what you're saying, like, you're figuring out what your boundaries are. When I say
Yeah,
capacity or limitations, that's another scenario. It's not just your time and your energy, it's also your
right.
finances, right?
Yeah,
Because for a lot of people, it's like, "Oh, I'm amping up the hours or I'm amping up what I need to earn because the kids are back in hockey." Well, if hockey's demands don't fit your actual desire for your lifestyle, we do need to sit back and reevaluate,
yep,
right? And we have to figure out where personal responsibility lies, again, age appropriately.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool, love it. I think so many people are gonna benefit from just that conversation that you just
Yeah, thanks. I love that you
had.
brought it up because I love talking about this. I'm also gonna say this because I really wanna validate people's feelings. You may feel 10 times more stressed listening to this podcast.
Yeah,
And
good point.
that's fair. And I'm not saying that to stress you. I wanna actually validate that you might already feel that way. And the reason is because if you have been operating on autopilot, where it's like, "Oh, it's September, we're going back to what we always do," the idea of challenging your belief systems, the idea of challenging your partner's belief systems, of challenging the status quo of your family, that does create conflict. Okay. That's no doubt. Conflict is a healthy part of life. It's one of the adult things that you have to do. But yes, engaging in it does cause anxiety. So listen, I'll say, and take care of yourself and make sure that you are approaching this in, I'll say, stages, and reach out and have that conversation, right? If you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, I don't know how to tell my kids no, or I don't know how to tell my partner I don't want to do that, then now we're digging into some deeper issues about why it's not really a routines issue. It's our healthy communication, critical thinking, emotional intelligence issue, right?
Right.
We can't just
Yeah.
blame it on the family's routine that stresses you when it's a lack of boundaries on our part,
Yep.
right? And
Cool.
I
Wow.
mean, we haven't even touched on the fact that so many partnerships have a really imbalanced dynamic where one partner is responsible for everything we just talked about, and the other partner just kind of pops in as they want to and has basically their own schedule. Right.
Right.
So bringing in that conversation can be really difficult too when you start to understand, like, oh, great, I'm going to be on my own again. Right.
Yeah, that for
So
sure.
yeah, there's
Wow.
lots of check-ins that happen with this time of year, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully is turning into that positive aspect. I'm gonna I love that we went deep, and I think that that was so sad. But I'm gonna just switch it back a little bit
Yeah.
to a bit lighter because you said something a while back when we were talking about scheduling and plugging and playing, kind of like the non-negotiables, the appointments, the sports, etc. And I taking this back to like a fitness component or nutrition and fitness component. These your self-care, like your movement breaks, your meal prep time, like those can be the non-negotiables, right? Those should
Mhm.
be on, like, you write your list on the side. What's my non-negotiables that need to be on this calendar? Those things should and can be in there in that plug and play, right? And it could be, 20 minutes of walk. You put that in, block it off like as if it's an appointment that you're meeting with your doctor.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before. Sundays, maybe you're meal prepping. Maybe Sundays are family days. Meal prep time with your family. Like, how fun in the kitchen. We're all doing something. Like, block that off again as an appointment with your family, so that you're showing up for each other and showing up again for yourselves. I think it's so worth making it an appointment versus just, I'll get to it when the rest of my schedule allows.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, exactly what you're talking about with movement. I think for a lot of people over the summer, if both partners are home or one is home, there's a lot more freedom with the coming and going of like, "Oh, you know what? I'll go for a run this afternoon. It's good weather out," or it's kind of whimsical, right? If you're walking into something like a September situation, it needs to be where you're assessing, okay, I still want to do this 3 times a week, or I still want to do this twice a week. Turning to that partner and saying, okay, I need coverage for the kids so that I can on Tuesdays and Thursday evenings after, work, go out and get this thing done for myself, right?
Yeah.
We have to make those arrangements if children need supervision. I'll
Awesome.
say yeah, I'll say too, like, part of one of the things that I think a lot of people forget to schedule in as a non-negotiable is date night or date time. We start to think that, work is the only non-negotiable, or if you're doing movement and nutrition, that's great too. And then we forget to schedule in the non-negotiables of our time for connecting with other people. And
Yes.
I would say look at that schedule and see where you're making time for and with one another, because routine is one of the things that will pull you away from that if you don't make it a part of your routine.
So true. So, so true.
Yeah. I love this topic. Is
So
there
true.
anywhere else that you wanted to take it?
I think so. Yeah, actually, we've talked about more than I would have thought about. So that's perfect.
Okay. I feel like
I love it.
some people are going to be like 15 minutes is enough. Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, I am drained.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to
That's
have those
okay.
conversations. But this is good. There's so many tools in here. There's so many steps that people can
Yes.
take, which is really empowering. And the best thing that I will suggest is put pen to paper. Don't just
Yeah.
conceptualize what we talked about. Jot these things down, brainstorm what your non-negotiables are, brainstorm your desires, and pen to paper is so good because we require a capital and a period. We require a full thought to be put down instead of recall, which is difficult for a lot of people. You're depending on recall and then you're interrupting your own thought and we stay muddied up in our head, right? And we think we'll
Hmm.
get to it later and it never really becomes a plan, even though we have technically given it a lot of thought.
Yeah.
So put pen to paper, challenge yourself to look at and articulate exactly what you want this to look like, so that you can set yourself up for success.
Awesome. Awesome. Super helpful. Helpful for me too. I love
Cool. Yeah, new mom.
it. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh man, kids and sports. Oh, I got a few years. We're good.
Yeah, fair. Awesome. Do you have a tip
All
for
right.
us?
Yeah, I'm gonna change just like totally random tip.
Sure.
Um, as I mentioned on other podcasts, I'm planning a wedding in a very short amount of time. And so with that, I've definitely honed in on like my health and fitness, right? I want to feel good and look the way I want to look. So with that, I've been having to switch my maybe not so healthy desserts to more of a healthy alternative because I love my sweets, as we know on this podcast.
Yes.
So I've been making like a cookie dough, a protein cookie dough at night every night, and so there's a few ways you can do it, but I just want to share it because it's my favorite thing in the world right now. So I do obviously a big heaping scoop of protein. The reason I love it too is because going to bed with protein and a bit of fat, right? Like you just feel so full and satisfied. You maybe had a good workout that day, and now you can utilize that protein overnight. So I love having my cookie dough before bed. So I'll just scoop of protein. Depending on if your calories allow for it, you can do like full almond butter or just like powdered peanut butter. If you're looking to save on calories, you can definitely do the powdered peanut butter as well. So I'll do that, and I do sprinkle in chocolate chips, of course. I do like a dark chocolate chip, and then almond milk or some type, whatever milk of your choice that you use. And if you like a little bit sweeter, you can do the maple syrup as well. But then you just mix it up to your consistency. So like it might be like a tablespoon of almond milk, or maybe you like 4 tablespoons because you want it like you just make it to whatever consistency. And that's literally all I do. And I just eat a bowl of that every night. And
Well,
it's the spot, let me tell you.
you've changed our lives, Jerrica.
I'm so
Thank you
glad.
so much.
It's so good because I'm a big like eat the real cookie dough when you're making cookies, but we all know that's not great for you. So sometimes you gotta choose a little bit better route when you're trying to you got goals when you've got goals.
Yeah, I love it. Well,
Yeah,
you've given us healthy options. That's great.
love it. Awesome. All right, we're gonna wrap things up. So yeah, lots of awesome tips here today. So if anything resonated with you, if you think this could be so beneficial for even a friend or a family member, please screenshot wherever you're listening and share to your social media page. Please tag us and don't hesitate to leave us a review or a comment below. So thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next Tuesday.